So my name is Jayshan Ratnakumar. I live in London. I've been here my whole entire life, born and bred here. And I started off my journey at Imperial College London, did my undergraduate in mechanical engineering, really loved it, was awesome, spectacular. And then I wanted to go into industry and gain some more commercial understanding. And then I took an interesting opportunity to go into the defense industry at BAE Systems, and I worked at nuclear submarines. It was also interesting because at that phase of my life, all the way up to the age of 22, I've always been in London. I've always lived in London. I've always been around my friends, and I kind of wanted to get out of my own comfort zone. That's why I also took this opportunity. So I went to Cumbria, which is in the northwest of England, and yeah, it was a really interesting experience. Met some interesting people, learned a lot from different people, different walks of life, and yeah, it was a really interesting project, and I did that for 3 years. So I got that kind of grounding understanding of system engineering, how to take a product, take a design and put it into market and engaging with customers. But then I thought it was a huge commercial business, thousands of people working there. And when you work with an engineering company where a product takes almost 20 years to go from design thinking all the way to being produced, I thought I'm not getting as much experience as I'd like to at this young age. So I thought, I work for a smaller company where the turnaround time is much quicker, get some more experience. Startup environment is probably the best opportunity for me. I can be more flexible. I can, just adapt. And that's kind of the kind of person I am. Just, I see something, I want to improve it, I want to do it better. And it's difficult to do that in quite a rigid structural system, especially in defense. And I also kind of wanted to understand more about business. Always had a passion for like taking a product and seeing it go through to market. That was always something in the back of my head. Startup community was, the perfect direction for me. So yeah, long story short, I found this amazing opportunity to work for this deep tech startup, and they came out with an amazing innovation where they were building a new type of generator for offshore wind turbines, which didn't use rare earth magnets. And just a quick overview, rare earth magnets are one of the most, precious metals on earth, and it's incredibly scarce. So, this was an amazing innovation to try and use something that's different, something that's cheaper. And then I did that for a couple of years, worked on fantastic projects, worked on an Innovate UK project, and yeah, now here I am doing my MBA at Imperial College Business School, back to where I'm started. So, coming around full circle. So there were several reasons why I chose to do an MBA. And I think my decision to finally take on that opportunity kind of stemmed from my experience and my connections and the people that I've been speaking, all up until that decision point. So I think, starting out as an engineer, I was really product driven, really hands-on driven, really technical. And then, the more I started to understand about business and working in organizations, there's supply chain functions, there's HR functions, there's, business managers, and everyone's concerned about their own thing to bring this product to life. When initially I thought, surely it's the technology, this is a thing that people are selling and buying, that should be the main focus of concern. And then I realized I'm out of my depth here. It's definitely not the main focus point. It's bringing all of these things together. And that made complete sense when I was at the startup, when I was working with my operations director, the finance bloke, the commercial director, all of those pieces came together. And it was kind of towards the end of that journey at the startup where I realized, what if I could try and merge, all this experience that I have, take this competitive advantage of me being an engineer, all this understanding I have, and learn more about the business side of things and, all those other different elements. I was thinking of different jobs that I can potentially go for, where my future is going to go into. And I couldn't really see the leap between, being the engineer and going into that kind of environment. And then, I suddenly came across this opportunity, the MBA. I already knew an MBA existed, but I think someone just brought it to my attention. I started doing more research on it, started reading more brochures, and I thought, this is a fantastic opportunity for me to easily transition across engineering, learn more about business, network with people from all different walks of life, different skill sets, different industries, put me on a path where I feel like I'd really make the most of. My experience with the Sainsbury Management Fellowship Scholarship was probably different to most people. I think from my understanding, it's a yearly process. Every June there's an application. For me, when the COVID hit last March and everything started going into lockdown, obviously business were affected. Our business was affected, as anyone would expect. And that's kind of where I really started to think about, okay, this is my place here. The company's having, these sorts of changes. I really need to start thinking about myself and, where I want to go. And then I actually also at the same time, I started realizing that, networking is really important, building your profile, speaking to people and building those connections, because, that's really vital. And then, I went to a Royal Academy of Engineering event just to, try and network, get to know people. And I got a notification from my email about different opportunities. And that's kind of where I learned about the SMF. And it was actually through the SMF I learned about, potentially doing an MBA. So I kind of found a different way of learning about the MBA, which was through the SMF. And then I thought, this is a fantastic opportunity. I could fully fund my MBA because, I was an engineer living in the northwest of England. I'm not sure if people are aware, but the pay up there for engineers is not as high as, if you're in finance or, these sorts of other industries. So, there's no way I was going to fund it myself. And this would be the perfect vehicle for me to be able to do that. Wanted to go into business, was showing experience or showing transition themselves. And I felt like I was doing that. I was really pushing myself to go into a startup environment, all these sorts of things. And that's when I thought, what, I'm going to take a shot at this. We're in lockdown, can't go to the gym, I can't see my friends. So I might as well use that time to try and do something to try and improve my career. So in that short space of time between March and when I had to apply in June, I started looking at the GMAT, started looking at schools, and I had those several things I had to do. But I thought, I'm going to commit myself because there's an opportunity and I should go for it. From my point of view, considering whether to go for an MBA and potentially even work for establishing a scholarship to support it, especially at a time like this, I think change always brings opportunity. And if you're thinking about transitioning or doing something different when the world is changing, that's probably the right time to try and also change your career. I feel like for me, whenever there's an opportunity, you really need to go for it and grab it with both hands. I think there's times in the past where I was younger and an opportunity came by and I thought, I'm not quite there yet. I'm not ready for it. So I'm going to pass on it. And then looking back, I'm like, I could have just put in an application. I could have just tried. I could have just inquired and just seen, what feedback I would have got. And I think it was, from those experiences in my past, I just thought, if there's an opportunity, go for it. It might not come around later. And, even if you fail, that's learning. And that's kind of the attitude I took towards it is, just learn and move forward. You're going to get knockbacks. There's going to be other things that come across, but just try and go for it, and you'll learn about yourself in that process. When putting forward an application for an MBA or a scholarship or anything like that, at the time when I did it, I had a short amount of time, and in my head I thought, it's probably like applying to university or applying for a job. Get your cover letter together, get your CV together, and throw in an application. But the more I focused on it, and the more I thought about it, it started questioning myself, is this the right university you're applying to? Is this the right scholarship you're going for? Not because it's whether or not you'd be able to get in, but it's whether or not it's the right fit for you and it's good for your career. That's kind of where the maturity came in me understanding how much am I willing to commit to this. It's really important to ask yourself, is this your goal? And if this really is your goal, how much you're willing to put behind the applications. What the process taught me was to really figure out what my drive was and what my goal and my ambition was. Because if I'm able to figure that out and explain that in a really short and quick way to anyone, then I'm sure, and I felt like I would be positive enough to put forward a strong application and convince someone else that I'd be the right fit to do this, and I'm on the right journey. So that's kind of one of the main things I'd say, really figure out what it is that you want, really figure out why you're doing this, and then put forward your application. In hindsight, that really helped me because there's a lot of people doing their MBAs because they're at a transition and they don't know what to do. Some people come and do the MBA because they don't know what to do. But what I've learned is that those sorts of people are trying to clutch at so many different straws. They're not probably channeling the MBA that's the best way for them. But I found that I had a really strong goal and a really strong ambition, and every single resource that I'm making use of in the MBA is really helping me because I know what my end goal is. So I'm just literally focusing on the things that help me, and that's probably the best way to use it. And that's kind of something I've learned in hindsight. When I was applying for the MBA, I originally wanted to really get involved with climate strategy, renewable energy, because that's kind of where I built my startup experience in. That's kind of where my technical know-how was, and I had a good understanding of the market and the industry, especially offshore. So I was going into the MBA thinking of working on something sustainable, but definitely in the entrepreneurial environment. And then when I started, I was talking to a few colleagues of mine at the MBA and people that I knew outside the MBA, And we came up with a really cool idea that actually had nothing to do so much about, sustainability and climate change. And right now, what we've done is we've identified a problem in a completely different market. It's in the health and fitness market. I've got so much passion for that market as well. And again, that's another example of, there's an opportunity and I've just seen it and I feel like I can add value there. I feel like, and I also add passion there. So that's kind of what my MBA journey is now focused around. So I'm looking at, trying to build a startup, trying to raise some seed capital from angel investors, whoever it may be, around this business idea and the health and wellness market. And, really trying to develop that, really using everything the MBA has to offer, making use of my network to try and see that through. Because, if I'm successful in that, it's going to open doors down the line, which, enables me to get back into renewables and back into my original goal and my passion. So in terms of how I see the SMF supporting me as a member of that community, obviously, I've only been a part of the community for less than a year. It's coming up to probably 6 to 8 months. So I've probably not made the most out of it or been able to take the most out of it compared to, people who've been there for, several years or, even decades. But, I've managed to have a few conversations with some really cool alumni. I've spoken to Chirag Shah, who's an absolutely awesome SMF fellow, had a great chat with him. We also host annual dinners. Unfortunately, I don't think we've had the opportunity to do that now with COVID, but when things settle down and, those annual dinners, come round again, I'm going to be more than excited to go to those events and really speak to other people who've been in my journey, who've walked the same path as I have. Now I've gone off to do amazing and wonderful things. And I think the other amazing thing about that community is that everyone's really approachable. Everyone's happy to support one another. Everyone's really open to speak to everyone else. So, it's a really fantastic community. And I can't really wait to, really get into that. I think STEM and engineering has, a huge impact on, the trajectory of us as a society, us as a world, massively. I think education is improving day by day, year on year. I'm speaking to 18-year-olds and, they know more than I did when I was 22. It's great to see all these students maturing. And in terms of engineering and STEM, it's such a unique degree and a unique skill and subject base, because it makes you think very differently. It makes you think of problems in a different light. It makes you think creatively and outside the box. And, those skills are so important now more than ever. Us as a society, we want to change the way we've been living. We want to become more sustainable, more renewable. And there's such a huge, large population, and we need to sustain that and look after that. Science, technology, all of those skills and experiences and understanding has a massive impact. I'm all up for students spending more time in those areas. Absolutely. In terms of kind of a skill or a knowledge base that I've acquired or that I depend upon that really helps me now and probably in the future, is probably not so much anything I've actually learned, but it's more kind of approach that I take. When you're an engineer and when you're studying through university and even now, you look at a problem and there's just so many ways to approach it. And I'm not the typical person to jump in and immediately give a solution or jump in and give an answer. I'm definitely the type that sits back, waits, and sees what everyone else's input is, get everyone else's perspective, because that allows me to see, okay, this is how they approach the problem, and this is their thoughts on how to split it apart, break it apart, and resolve it. And what that does is it allows me to take all that information and try and think of a different way or come at it from a different angle. I'm inherently a person that always wants to look at things in a different way, because people are going to come to the table and present their ideas. So there's no point me coming with the same way of approaching something. So I really take pride in trying to think about the problem in a different way. And I think that's what engineering has really helped me do. Those analytical skills, creativity skills really helps build that picture. And just being able to do different things. I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to get involved with different things. I've been involved with music, I've done some creative stuff, I've done some drawing. Getting involved with a bunch of different skills just helps approach things a different way. And I think that's really important. And it's not to focus on any one thing. Spend time on your hobbies, spend time with friends, get involved. And it comes back to this whole point of, if there's an opportunity, go for it, just really get involved. Because all of those things without you realizing and subconsciously really helps you break down things and the way you approach, jobs or anything that you have going in front of you and tasks. Probably the most important skill I've learned is just being able to analyze things a different way. if people really are thinking about transitioning, really find out why you want to do it. That's really important. I throw around ideas all the time. Before the MBA, I was like, maybe I should do this. And then I just really pushed myself to figure out why I wanted to do it, because, it's a huge commitment. And I think once you figure it out and you've justified to yourself why you want to do it, you can put in as much passion as you want. You can work as many hours as you want. And that's important, because you want to put your all behind something that you're committed to, not something that someone else has told you to do, or someone else told you it's a great idea. So it's just really figuring that out and spend some time thinking about it and be open to things that are available and explore those options. So obviously, we're a unique cohort and we're doing this whole MBA in these very strange times, which means, I'm in front of a screen, most of the day. I'm sure most people are too, which wasn't the experience I was expecting, to be honest. I came into this MBA thinking that things were going to settle down maybe sooner than I thought. So there'll be an opportunity to meet with people face to face, really build those connections and those relationships, because that's really important coming to an MBA. That's one of the main reasons why people do it. And it's a shame that obviously most of our journey has been in front of the screen, but that has also presented a lot of opportunities. So for example, I probably on a standard day, if in the real world, probably wouldn't have the time to speak or have, meetings with 5 or 6 different people. But because I'm in front of a screen, I can just slot in times to see everyone, and I'm seeing so many people. And because everyone's doing this in their own home, it opens people up a little bit more in a way that you wouldn't in the real world. There's a kind of an element of professionalism that people have to uphold when you're in the real world. The way you dress and the way you speak to people kind of breaks that barrier, and it gets me to really understand the person behind the screen, which you wouldn't get in a different environment. That's kind of the benefit, building a deeper connection in front of a screen. Yeah, I think that's been the silver lining, I guess, on all of this. The Imperial MBA has been amazing at setting up events, left, right, center that you can attend. There's so many events out there, but I think there's also opportunities for people just generally as well. I think Eventbrite is a website where there's tons of fantastic opportunities there. And I think it's just trying to, sign yourself up on those newsletters and those kind of pages where you can start to get traction in those industries and areas that you want to get involved with. So, Eventbrite is one of them. Hopin is another amazing platform where I found it amazing to, network with other people. They almost have a speed networking session, and those a couple of weeks ago, I attended one of those over a 2-hour session, and I met almost 10 people that I knew that could help me, which is amazing. But at the same time, there was 10 people that I could help and I wanted to help. So those 2 platforms were really amazing for me. And it's really important, just go to these webinars and just go with the attitude that you might learn something. And if you don't, at least you've gone and known that what you do know is the right thing. And it just reaffirms what you do know, which is important. As well as learning new things, balancing MBA life, work life, social life, especially when, you can't go outside and really do anything. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not going to sit here and say that I've got the formula for it. I don't, I'm struggling with it. But I think what's important is to just try and organize your day and your week. I think when I try and organize, what's going to happen this week, what's going to happen this weekend, it kind of braces my mind for, okay, I'm going to do some work over here, do some productivity stuff, socialize with people over Zoom, go out for a walk, spend some time, doing a Joe Wicks workout, because, usually I used to spend, 40 minutes, 45 minutes in the gym and, walk to the gym and back. Whereas for some reason, I feel like when you're sitting in front of the screen, I'm actually spending more time working now than I did before. And, just doing a quick 25-minute HIIT workout or something is just really important to squeeze that in. So yeah, I mean, just to kind of summarize there, I've definitely not found the formula, but I think it definitely revolves around allocating certain amounts of time to do certain things and really be dedicating that time to do that, kind of spending more time doing something else, really commit to those segmented areas and focusing on it. And I think, you can get a well-rounded, balanced life. I praise those who are able to do it.